My name is Joseph Ruak, and I was born and raised here on Saipan. I was born July 1963, and like I said earlier, I was born and raised here on Saipan, and I am from the village of Tanopek.
Awesome.
My parents are Felipe I. Ruak and Magdalena Ruak. They're both from the island of Saipan. They are both Carolinians, and they have heritage from the outer islands of Chuk, specifically from the Namonwite region. I am the youngest of six siblings. We're all born and raised here. They're all married and out, and I'm here all by myself. Just hearing from my parents, like specifically from my dad, he says that it was pretty harsh for some people, and also at certain point of the administration. School was not readily available for locals, Carolinians or Chamorros, but there are some lucky Chamorros and lucky Carolinians that were allowed to attend school. But those that do attend, there's the Japanese administration or the teachers were very, very strict. But they have to go through what they needed to go through. I know my dad was born in 1932, and my mom was born in 1933. A short story, or information that was shared to us by our mom. During the war, my mom told us that they were up in the northern islands, like in Pagang. And so during the war, because they were not aware of what was happening, and meaning they've never seen anything of that nature, any airplanes, any big ships, or things like that. So when my mom was sharing with us that she had an elderly aunt who was known to be this elderly aunt was also known to be a medicine woman in the family. And this particular aunt of ours was so convinced that she had the powers and that she can protect her family. So this elderly woman went out there in the middle of a field while all these airplanes were flying above them, and this lady was doing her chant and chanting away the airplanes to protect her family. She has family up there, and they were taken up there by a ship, but this ship that goes up to the northern islands, they're so rare to occur. So when they went up there, they just get dropped off, and they're there until whenever another ship would show up. When the stars broke out, or the war broke out, and this so many airplanes and so many ships were out there and parked out there. They were just so overwhelmed, and they've never seen anything like it. And going back to that old lady, my mom's aunt, she was convinced that she can protect her family, and so she went out there and started her chanting to sweep away the danger. My dad was here on Saipan, and from what he shared with us, when the war broke out, they had to run up to up in the mountain area just above Tanopak. Um, I wish I knew which of those caves they hid in, but that was where they ran up to. There's a particular cave up above Tanopak village area where his family, or his mom, his sister, his sister's son, an infant, they all ran up there with other relatives. They all ran up there, and they hid in there during the war. And during a particular time, there was there was a fight broke out between the Japanese and the U.S. soldiers. Um, there was bombing or shelling that was occurring, and um, they were getting hit. The cave was getting hit, and his sister, my aunt Lucy, my dad's sister's name is Lucy, and my aunt Lucy had a son named Jesus, and he was still an infant, and they got hit by the bombing, and they were just sitting there at the mouth of the cave, and they just died right there. Yeah. Oh yes, and every now and then I would come here. I really appreciate the list of the names of the local people that passed away. I would go there every now and then and just read the names. My my father's dad, his name is there. My my infant uncle, or no, cousin, my infant first cousin, his name is there, and my aunt, my dad's sister, her name's there, and a lot of my mom's brothers and sisters, their names are listed there too. So it's a nice thing to have. I know they're not buried there, but it's just to see their names, that they are acknowledged, that they existed at some point. It's great. According to my mom, the names of her some of her brothers and sisters that are listed on this monument out here, according to my mom, they were very young, and it's either they couldn't bring them here because they were just too young to dig up the graves and bring their bones back from Pagan, or maybe they just don't know where they're buried at. The same goes with my dad's father, Jesus. He also passed away after the war, but they couldn't identify properly where he was buried. So it's nice to have the monument out there as an acknowledgement on all the CNMI locals, no, that have perished because of the war. The only recollection I have is that there's actually, when they share the stories, it was just they only share about like just snaps, no, snapshots of here, and then there's a big gap, and then another snapshot of here. So when Camp Susupi occurred, my mom related to us that they were all gathered up and taken down, and then the next thing they know, it was already time to come out, and everybody was so happy that they're finally going to be released, or they are finally released. And in their excitement, um, they, you know, my my mom shared a story about her and one of her sisters, um, Anastasia, or Nantas, we call her. Um, Nantas is the more adventurous one over my mom. My mom tends to be the very quiet one and all of that. So Nantas would always be the one to encourage her. Let's go. Let's go follow so and so. We're released today, or before they were released on, like, on certain weekends or some weekends, they would they would go for a ride with some friends, some boys. Yeah. So they would just drive around, and then when they come back from their strolling around, they would see a certain cousin, and this certain cousin everybody feared because he's just so strict. His name is Uncle Benedicto Falik. Um, his Carolinian name is Finette. And so from far away, Nantas would go, oh, Magdalena, Nani Finette. Magdalena, there's Finette. So my mom would just, I told you we should not have gone. Never mind, we're here. So they went out on their cruising, they're strolling around, and then they see their cousin brother, Finette, and they know that they're gonna get it because they're not allowed to, and especially being Carolinian women, right? Their brothers, their cousins are so strict on them that they're supposed to just always stay with the family and not go out with anybody but family only. So on their return, there's brother Finette, and Finette would look at them, or looked at them, and asked them, "Where'd you come from?" They just said, "We're just over there." Okay, go in there and wait for me. So they already knew that they were getting. um, but like I was saying earlier, my mom being so very quiet and not she doesn't talk back, okay, or in Chamorro, the disatenta, or zanya manupi. She didn't do that. But on the other hand, Nantas, uy, she's the Cuba of the family. she 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 just told the brother that there's nothing wrong. They just went out there for a short strolling, and now they're back. So that was it. And then on the day of the actual release, that was when they kind of lost it, because they just went with everybody and they didn't care anymore, because it really was a liberation day. My dad didn't share a lot of stories, or any stories actually, about encampment, but what he did share was after the encampment, um, realizing that there it this is the strange phenomenon, no, for us here, because um, even for me as a local person, um, I've always I've always thought that, and really up to now, I've always thought that there is no such thing as a homeless Chamorro, homeless Carolinian, because we're all related, right? So of course family would take care of family. So um, my dad grew up as a homeless person, really, if we really think about it, no? Because Um, his mom didn't have her own house. They were staying with his mom's cousin's family, and so um, my dad was just so lucky to be and to have the maturity to recognize that they were such in a really bad place. Although they appreciate family being there, a family helping family, that it, for outsiders, they don't see that they're actually homeless. So recognizing that he was homeless, and recognizing that his mom was at the brink of or at the age or the stage in life where she was already becoming forgetful. um, my dad recognized that he needed to do something for himself to improve his life. And for some odd reason, he was very, very lucky to be selected to go to school in Guam at Father Dueña's school. So he went away for a while when he was probably, 14, 15 years old. He went away to go to school in Guam at the Father Dueña school. But then he received a letter from relatives who were taking care of his mom that he needed to come back because my mom or my grandmother's stage of dementia has already become really bad, that they need him to be back to help in taking care of her. So he came back and took care of his mom, and then from there he started to improve his life, to continue going to school, and then he got into different jobs on island, and also was sent away for school in Hawaii and also in Papua New Guinea. He realized that they were just staying with family, and that they needed to have their own space. They needed to have their own home. So when he went away to Guam, he came back, took care of his mom, and then I don't quite remember exactly how he ended up working with I think it was the Joten company, trading company. He was part of he was like a clerk to go collect copra from the northern islands, and then come back and then do the copra selling. And then from there, he worked in the naval administration, in the public works naval administration, I believe. Um, and then before he went to Guam, he also saw my mom, and he fell for her. And that was a little bit of how they started their life together. But then he when he went to Guam, he was saying that um, he went there to become a priest. But then when he came back to help take care of my mom, or his mom, my grandmother, he saw my mom, and then that was when priesthood school was thrown out the window, and and so and that's how they met up. That's how they started their lives. Um, so my dad was working in the naval administration, and then from there, he also was very lucky to be sent away to University of Hawaii to go to school for communications. And then when he came back, he came back and he worked over here at the very first radio station. You know your storage, your maintenance building? That was the very first radio station on island. That's the very first radio station building on island. It was called KJQR, and my dad was the station manager, and they were playing all kinds of music and doing announcements over, or, public announcements for Saipan and the Trust Territory days. Yeah, and then by this time, my parents have already gotten married, and they start having their family. During this time also, I don't know exactly how, but my dad was selected to represent, to be a part of this group of people representing Micronesia, and my dad was representing the CNMI, and so this is like 1966 now. I was already 3 years old, and so my dad was selected, and he was informed that he can take his wife and his two oldest children to go to the States to be a part of the John F. Kennedy Peace Corps program. So what they were selected for was to be the people to go over there to teach the Peace Corps volunteers that were coming out here, to teach them Chamorro and Carolinian culture and customs and a little bit of the language before they come out. So my dad, being the being the wise person that he was, instead of taking his two oldest children, he decided to take his two youngest children, my older sister and me. So yeah, so when I was 3 years old, I was a very lucky human being. I don't remember a thing, but I was told that we went to the States, we went to Florida, we went to as my mom would say, Santa Barbara, Santa Barbara, California. And up to, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when my mom was still around, every now and then she would urge me or tell me to look for these people that took care of us in Santa Barbara. I said, Mom, how the heck am I supposed to know? What are their names? Do you remember their names? Joseph Lo Aligo. Mom? And when, I tried my best to share technology with my mom. And when I informed her about the internet, she went, oh, Pogo sina pro naligo di sa familia gi Santa Barbara. Ay, Santa Barbara. So, I never did because my mom couldn't recall the names of the names of the people that we were matched with, or the people that sponsored us, more or less, no? In Santa Barbara, in Key West, Florida, and yeah. So we stayed out there I think for a year. And I recall when I was about 12 or 15 years old, I looked at both at my parents and I asked them, "You mean to tell me we could have been out there, we could have been living out there all this time?" And my mom looked at me and she says, "Yes, but I told your dad that I do not want to stay in America for the rest of my life." I said, "Ay." So we came back. I think after a year. So we were out there in like 66, then we came back. When we came back, no. When we came back, my dad continued on with his work and at KJQR. And then by that time also he was selected, or he was, I don't know how it was done, but he became the land commissioner for the Mariana Islands. And he was the land commissioner from about 1978 until he retired in about 1985 or so. During this whole time, so we came back from the Peace Corps stint, and by, I would say, the following year, like 1968 or so, I started Head Start, in the Head Start program. And my mom was one of my teachers in the Head Start program. And then from there, she was a Head Start teacher for about probably 3 or 4 years. And then after that, she just stayed home and looked after us. And then before I went away for college, I went away in 1983. So if I recall correctly, my mom went back to work in, I would say, 1979, 1980. And at this time, she went to work at Tanapak Elementary School in the school cafeteria. And she was there until she retired. She retired in, I would say, 1989 or 1990. This was in Tanapak Head Start. It was up there where Tanapak Middle School is at now. The old building, the one closer to the baseball field, closer to the gas station, the Tanapak Mobile gas station. That's the original building for the school. Everywhere else is Tangan-Tangan. Yeah. So the current basketball court now, the current youth center, that's all Tangan-Tangan. Yeah, that's all jungle. So, so she was a Head Start teacher there. As I was growing up, I was really rebellious. I had my own mindset of what I wanted to do with my life. I recall being so frustrated that, because you have to remember that although I was told that I've been to the States when I was 3 years old, I don't recall anything, nothing at all. And so there was this drive in me that as soon as I graduate from high school, the very next day, I was gonna get on a plane and get out and go see the world. So when I was at MHS in high school, I was already planning my life. I was already planning how to go about getting out of here and what I needed to do. But then before all that can happen, right? When I was an 8th grader at Hopwood Junior High School, one of the best programs. Now I say it's the best programs. But back then, I was so rebellious about it. One of the best programs that came out is the bilingual program, right? And there I was, an eighth grader, and thinking that I got life figured out. So the very first time that the bilingual program um, was was put in place or got established, they came to Hopwood Junior High School. They start to teach weaving, coconut leaves, to weave baskets. And one of my aunts from the south, the Carolinian aunt from the south side, she was the teacher. And our particular group of eighth graders were sent to her classroom to learn how to weave to learn how to weave baskets with coconut leaves. And because I already figured out that I know what I'm doing with my life, I do not want to go backwards. I saw weaving baskets with coconut leaves as going backwards. So I decided to just sit there, not participate because this is going backwards. And I gladly received an F for that class. That was the biggest, I don't know what else to say. That was one of the biggest mistakes I had, or I had in life. So thinking that I got it figured out, I moved on with my life. And I was so proud of myself that I received the F. I was so proud of myself that I didn't allow myself to go backwards. So I just moved on. 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. So when I was in 10th grade, 11th grade at Marianas High School, I saw the Southern Carolinian group, Mr. Louis Tilipao, and his group back then. The Carolinian Cultural Club was alive. And I was looking at them. I was going, that's cool. And then, bling. Do I have my own dance in my own village? I went back home. Dad, Mom, do we have Carolinian dances? Yes, Joseph, we do. And what? Why isn't anybody teaching? Or di mama pairita si Ping. So I asked specifically to my dad, because I've always heard here and there in Tanopac village, I would hear, the Talabog men or the men of Tanopac, the Carolinian men of Tanopac have their own traditional dances. And they're so good, and they're nice. It's only all men, and da 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 da. And then I go to MHS. I see this Southern Carolinians. They're mixed, boys and girls. They're dancing their dances and all of that. And then, I give them credit. Honestly, they inspired me. Here I was in the 8th grade going, hey, I'm not going backwards. And then when I was in high school, I saw these high schoolers from the South, Carolinian, from the South, dancing their dances. They inspired me that I went back to my parents, specifically to my dad, and I asked. He says, yes, there is, but nobody wants to teach. I said, well, can you teach me? Can you teach us? But then it didn't go anywhere. So that had this weird feeling inside of me, knowing Just knowing that we do have our own dances, but yet nobody's doing anything at that particular time. So this is about like 1980, 1981. Um, there was a plan, unbeknownst to me, there was a plan by Arts Council at that time to organize the very first Flame Tree Arts Festival. So that was what pushed my dad. I don't know who called him, I don't know who invited him, but from that, um, whoever organized it from the Arts Council and whoever this person was that reached out to community members to to invite them to come perform at the very first Flame Tree Arts Festival. Um, that was what got my dad's attention, and then by that time too, I was already getting ready to go to school in the States, but there was this fire in me by this time already that I want to learn, and I want to learn this before I go. So there was that excitement in the village because my dad started teaching. And so this is like 1980, 1981. And then we performed at the very first Flame Tree Arts Festival here on Saipan. And the venue, the venue was over there at Civic Center Beach and also Mount Carmel Gym. So we were all so hyped. I know I was really, really hyped. And so there was 8 of us that learned all the dances. My 2 older brothers, myself, my cousin Gilbert Kani, my cousin Simon Kainoa, Joe Capileo, Juan Capileo, and a gentleman, a relative from the outer island of Waliai that was living with us at that time at our house, at my parents' house. So the 8 of us were the first students back in 1981. From that performance, I believe that was how we got selected to represent the CNMI in the 1985 Pacific Arts Festival that was held in Tahiti. So it didn't occur, or I already left to go to school in the States. So while I was in the States, this is when it started to hit me that I miss my home. And it was also very strange, to be in a university cafeteria and to be asked, "Who are you? Where are you from? What are you doing here? Why are you here?" Like, what do you mean? So that was how I finally appreciated being Carolinian. I finally appreciated who I am. I did not intend to be a cultural practitioner. I appreciate that I am. Now I can say, yeah, I'm very lucky. I stayed away for about 10 years. I finally came back in about 1993, 1994, somewhere in there. And at this time period also, there was this movement in the village from my cousin Linsa Falik, Fined's daughter. So she was the principal of Tanopec Elementary School at that time. She organized a group of Tanompec parents, Tanompec Elementary School parents, to make a trip to Chuk for to go back to the roots, no, um, to go back to outer island of Chuk, from the especially specifically to the Namonwite region, to to see to see family and to make that connection to from there to here. And so I was back before they left, and I was lucky enough to join them in that trip to go to Namonwite region, or specifically to the atoll of Unknown. So we were there for about, I would say, a week and a half, I think. And then we returned to Saipan. Um, when we returned, that was when I started to form the groups in the village. The Carolina name I got from the late Mao Piailug is Ioniwa, and Ioniwa is a like a code word for navigators. So it's a sea marker out there in the open ocean. So when navigators sit and they have their conversation and they describe the ocean, for us, the not so experienced people, when we look out there in the ocean, all we see is a big wide ocean, right? But for navigators, they have certain markers that they have names for. So the name I was given is Yoniwa. It's the sea marker between the island of Lamotrek and the island of Woliai. So how it's described is between these two islands, um, people who are sailing can see certain sea animals and sea creatures. And when you see those certain sea creatures and sea animals, then that gives you that idea that you are very, very, you have a greater possibility or a greater chance of being in between these two islands. A short experience during the sailing from Satwa to Saipan, right? Um, there I was. So first of all, I've never sailed in a modern canoe or a traditional canoe, and so I was clueless. I didn't know what is that the do's and don'ts of being on the canoe. The only thing there's one rule that we were all given before we left Saipan. We were informed that our luggage for the canoe is a 5-gallon bucket. Like, the Ace Hardware 5-gallon bucket. Yeah, that's the luggage. So whatever you need, so this is where everything kicks in, right? What do I need out there? What is the most important thing for my need out there during the trip? So everything that I need needs to fit into this 5-gallon bucket. So I put a small, like one of those 500 sheets baby wipes. Okay, I need baby wipes out there. I put baby wipe in there. I put baby oil, and then I put water And then I was told, no, take out that water. That's just making things heavy. You, water is going to be taken care of. We put other stuff. I put my raincoat in there, and then we were also allowed a backpack. And then in my backpack, I had a camera and some other stuff. And then during the trip, as we were saying, we left Satawal. So we left Satawal and started heading to a small island, a neighboring island, to meet up with the other voyagers. And as we were sailing towards that area, I recall sitting and looking back at the Satawal, no? When I look back and the island started getting smaller and smaller, I asked myself, why did I do this? Because it started to get so hot out there, and when, like, at about 9 o'clock in the morning, it was really, really, really hot, and there was no trees to hide under. There's no shade to hide under. You just sit there and take it, and you go, oh, whose great idea was this to be on this trip, right? And then you just sit there, and then like about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening, as soon as the sun sinks down, mosquitoes come out. I went, mosquitoes out here? And then the rain starts. The rain starts coming down, and it's on, off, on, off. And you just sit there and you go, whoa, what the heck did I put myself through? What's this all about? And then one of the things that I recall, like on the 4th day or the 5th day of the trip, we were out there, way out there. You look around you, you can't see anything. It's just plain. You look all around, there's nobody there. And it didn't feel like we're moving forward. It felt like we're just sitting there in the middle of this bowl, and we're not going anywhere. Wow. So, and during the trip, I got really nervous seeing that there was 14 people on our canoe. There was 14 of us. We were all literally just sitting like this together in the canoe, and the edge of the canoe, like the edge of the canoe right here, the water's like just right down there, and the water just sips in during the whole trip. So that was again another one of those, wow, did I really want to do this? What's this all about? I learned to be a very fast bailer, right? To remove water from inside the canoe, because this was our duty, the Saipan people, the Saipan men. We had to take turns in bailing out water from the canoe. And then I really appreciated being there, because it was probably one of the shadiest place. Had a little bit of shade because you're in the dugout of the canoe. You're standing there, There's a little bit shade from all these men that are sitting up here. Right. Okay. I can bail. My turn. So it was really nice. Yeah. It was something else. It was something else. And then probably because of all the just being nervous to be out there, and also just all the physical movement on the canoe. Um, I had a really strange dream during the voyage, and um, when you're tired and you have to go to sleep, you just find a small spot and you just squeeze yourself in there and get whatever sleep you can get, because it's not a cruise ship. Right. It's not a luxury ship or a cruise ship. You Whatever small space you find, you squeeze yourself in there and get your rest, if it's your time to rest. We were given shifts to watch the canoe. Um, so when your shift is over, we were given 1 hour shifts to be on duty to watch the canoe. Um, some men were holding the sail, and the others are holding the rudder, and then there's the bailer. That's me. I didn't qualify yet to hold the rudder or the sail, so just a bailer. Yeah. I think it's really important, like I was saying earlier, about the local monument that is constructed outside the park, no, or on the park premises. Um, it is a great thing to be able to reconnect, or to know where to go, just to see that acknowledgement of who your ancestors are, where your roots are at, and things like that. I also believe, now having said that, I didn't want to be, I didn't want to go backwards. I want to move forward. I want to look forward into the modern things. And I believe in order for us, anybody really, in order for us to appreciate who we are and to know what we are, we need to know our own history, where our roots have been, where our families have been, the struggles they've gone through. And so in that way, we can appreciate what they've gone through, and we can inform ourselves on what we can do to better ourselves and the next generation. If anything, really, it's like I was touching on a little bit earlier, is to just be patient with yourself. Of course, life is wonderful and great, and the world is big, and of course you want to go see the world, but be patient. Listen to your elders, listen to your teachers, and learn about yourself, learn about your roots, your family, your culture. Appreciate them, and then figure out how you can navigate your life moving forward. Don't do what I did.